Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another speed build for the Disney Save. Today we are building a cafe and ice cream parlor themed after Frozen and more specifically Olaf. So today's build is not technically a recreation from Frozen or any of the parks. This is something that in concept I had really wanted to do. I really wanted a Frozen themed ice cream parlor specifically for Olaf. I thought that that would really work and be like an interesting idea. For the concept of an ice cream parlor in The Sims, it's a little bit tricky. You technically can't make one. The game limits you because you cannot sell ice cream in The Sims 4. We do actually have an ice cream machine, but you are unable to sell it. So even if I was to make this like a retail and have it be only ice cream for sale, it's not like a possible game mechanic. So instead, I thought it would be a good happy medium to just make this a cafe, have it function as an actual cafe in the save file, which by the way, we technically do not have. This is the first one. I did build Duke's Cafe from Princess and the Frog in Willow Creek, but I ended up making that lot a restaurant so that I could pick the menu out, which is basically the one big difference between a cafe and a restaurant, the ability to hand pick the menu and the things that would be served. And for Duke's, that was kind of important because Tiana is shown working there and they clearly serve beignets and breakfast food, and so I wanted to be able to pick all of that stuff out and have it be like a cute little breakfast place. But for this one, it's completely of my own design. There's more leeway. We don't really have to worry about what we would be serving here as far as restaurant food goes, and we are planning to do a different restaurant somewhere else in Mount Komorebi that I don't believe will be Frozen themed. So this I felt like was the good happy medium between all of the ideas. So the upstairs portion is actually where the ice cream parlor is, and essentially that means that we just have some ice cream machines up there where Sims can go up and make ice cream. There's also a couple of other things to do up there. I'll talk about it a little bit more when we go for the interior decoration. And then the downstairs functions as the actual cafe, but we do have this little bump out to the far left that ended up being this very cozy room with a fireplace and some comfy furniture. And we are at the top of Mount Komorebi, so it is very lodgy and very like cool place to maybe stop on the way past the mountain excursion, or if you want something with all of the atmosphere of like the snow but the warm sort of comfiness of ski lodges. It's all kind of in this area, and this was what we ended up creating. Now, as far as the name goes, my patrons and I talked about this for a little bit, and some really, really brilliant ideas were thrown out. We had warm hugs, warm mugs, and I ultimately decided that I was going to go with Latte Go. So Latte Go was a name that was created by one of my patrons, mods, and friends, AJ, who helps me with literally everything Disney Save related. And a while ago, like maybe 2 worlds ago, he had mentioned that at one point he had made a Frozen themed cafe and he had named it Latte Go. And I had mentioned to him that I thought that that was just like a brilliant name. I absolutely loved it. And he gave me permission to use the name. So when we decided we were going to do this ice cream parlor, the name was brought back up. And I'm really, really glad that he mentioned it, because we do sort of have this running theme in the save file where we name these sort of generic lots based after songs. Anything that's of my own design is usually like based after a song. So the Fallen Rose, I think, is like an exception. That was something that it was very early on in the save file. I kind of came up with it all on my own. But Other Side Nightclub comes to mind from Princess and the Frog. That was a nightclub that was just completely something I wanted to design, and usually the default idea for naming these locations is to go for a song. So Latte Go, really clever, really fun, very Frozen. I absolutely love it. I think it was a really great pick. Although warm hugs and or warm mugs was like a very close second, and I did sort of think about it for a while, but I do like Latte Go. So that is what we are creating today. Now you'll notice in particular that we are going for a certain aesthetic of building, a certain architecture style of sorts. This is supposed to be very Norwegian village and Norwegian architecture inspired, with the large, tall, peaking roofs, and very specific to Arendelle. And a lot of the stuff that they show throughout the village and throughout the movie are these beautiful, very intricate, but sort of abstract kind of windows. So although I wasn't really sure what I was going to use going in, the Strangerville windows and layering the Strangerville windows at that seems to be one of the best ways to sort of capture this look. They have this very intricate detailing on the panels that's different than most of the packs in the game. They come in a lot of really fun colors. So for example, Latte Go, I wanted to stick basically with like a pastel white and blue color scheme and keep it just very subdued and light. Oakens was so heavy on the wood tones and like the dark, crisp, cabiny wood tones. But for this, I really just wanted it to be a light, fun snowman kind of aesthetic where you've got like the whites and the lighter colors. So they come in, these windows come in a lot of lighter colors that I feel like really work, and I can use them throughout different builds so that I can make all of the buildings that are Frozen related look like they are a part of a set. So the lot next door to the right, you guys will see here and there is a build on the lot that I haven't bulldozed. I am actually currently building in my actual Disney save file, which I don't do. I actually have a save file that I build in separately, and then I will move all of my builds over to my Disney save at the end. So this is a little abnormal, but because of the fact that Mount Komorebi has so many hidden lots, I felt like it was maybe easier this time around to just build right here and work through the hidden lots and maybe build on them when I was able to do so. So that lot to the right, we have toyed a lot with like what we're going to do, and I won't spoil it, but ultimately it did end up being a Frozen type of build. And I wanted to make sure that the two buildings right next to one another looked really seamless together, and they have the same sort of style with this like Norwegian look to them, but also a hint of intricacy and that like detailing that you see all over Frozen. Now, there was a pretty big cut in the footage, and that was because I was very happy with the shell. I liked the general shape. It is a little bit big for a cafe, but I like to fill the lots out as much as I can. I will like use every inch of a lot if the game will allow me to do so. I just feel like we might as well. We have all the space. Like there's no reason to create some tiny little build on such a large lot. In that case, I would rather just move it. And so I'd rather create maybe like a slightly larger building and put more inside of it, or do like a pond and all of that and not waste the space. But one of the other things that I was really struggling with was just giving this building that extra little look that it needed to feel like it had special details that were more leaning towards the architecture style that I wanted to. So in particular for Norwegian style things that I was looking at for reference, a lot of it is very handmade, hand carved, detailing in the wood, like panels or windows on panels, and things in the wood will have beautiful, intricate carvings in them. It actually ends up feeling a lot like some of the stuff that comes with Island Living. And believe it or not, I used quite a bit of Island Living in today's speed build because of that reason. But something else that was a really big staple to me that I felt was so important to make sure was included are these like large beams, wooden, that sort of help separate the building. It makes it look very cabiny. But all of the buildings I was looking at for reference, where the edges of the walls were and you sort of like have your corners, they would have these huge wooden thick beams. Nothing like the columns that we have in game. Those are actually very slender, obviously. And we do have one that is just like sort of a round type of log, but it wasn't as big and grand as what I was looking for. So I had to stop filming and kind of just step away and really think about what I wanted to do. And you'll see that in that time period, while I was kind of toying around with different ideas, I came up with some ways to make this building look more interesting and have sort of that intricacy aspect without using more traditional building exterior items. So I found this one sculpture piece that I think comes from City Living potentially, and it's just like a glass square piece that I think you would use over an awning. And I realized that if I sized it down and sort of turned it, I could make it look like a snowflake. So I ended up using it on that roof for the room with the bump out, but I also thought it would make a really cool light if you sized it down to like one of its smallest sizes and then twisted two pieces inside one of another. It makes like this star pattern snowflake looking shape that was a really pretty different looking light that I could hang around. It doesn't actually function as a light. To me, it was more like it looks like a light, but it isn't. But it was just like that little bit that I needed, I feel like, to get really excited about this build and do something that was different and something I've never done before. And then of course we have the snowflake item. I believe that was given to us in a free holiday patch. What's really interesting about the snowflake that I have thought about in the past when I was kind of thinking about the future and deciding that I was going to do Frozen and like what type of builds would I do and what would that sort of look like, I thought about this one snowflake item that we have in the game that is definitely going to get a little overused in the Frozen themed builds, but for some reason it is one of the very few items in the Build and Buy catalog that cannot be sized up. And it definitely was such a pain that was the case for this build, because I really could have used it in a couple of places, sized up a little bit more to make like a really grand sign or put something on the top of the roof as like a marker for the building. But it is like one of maybe 3 or 4 items that comes to mind that you can't size up. And I thought that was interesting. But we still found use for it. And I think that in combination with those awning pieces and some extra little lighting and the snowflakes, it looks really good together. And that was when I ultimately figured out how I was going to create the beams on the building. But first I do want to talk about the little pond area to the far left here. So we had all of this extra space, and I did toy with a couple of different ideas, including maybe doing the ice skating rink that is available in debug from Seasons. And of course, somewhere in Mount Komorebi, I would like to have somewhere where your Sims can ice skate. I feel like obviously that goes very hand in hand, and with Frozen in particular, it just makes a lot of sense. But we looked at it on stream. It was a little bit too big. It didn't fit very well with this particular lot. It might fit a little bit better in a park, or there's a scene in Frozen at the end, I believe, where Elsa ices over the little plaza in the middle of Arendelle Castle, and all of the villagers are kind of ice skating in the front entryway area. And I had thought that maybe we could even do a ice skating rink there potentially. It just didn't fit well here, and I do wish that obviously ponds and pools and stuff would freeze over so that you could have that sort of look. But instead, it was brought up in chat to maybe create a pond area that is more representative specifically of Olaf. So the scene where Anna and Kristoff meet Olaf, and those beautiful trees with the icicles hanging down all around that they stumble into him in front of. And we have the one, again, patched in holiday tree with the beautiful lighting. And then he has his number in the movie, his song. So he talks about summer, and I thought it would be cute to do like a little island in the middle of the snowy pond there that represents him and his song. So again, the free holiday patch coming in so helpful for this build. One of the items that we received with that was the Sand Castle Snowman, and I absolutely thought that was perfect because it's kind of like summery, it's a little bit Olaf, whereas we do have the other debug snowman in the game. That one was more Olaf and summer, and so I did a pile of sand and some beach balls and an umbrella and created this like little summer scene in the middle of this wintry oasis, just to really let you know that this is in fact Olaf's cafe. I even had thought maybe for the lore of the save that Olaf had expressed interest in having a cafe, and that Elsa had sort of created it out of ice the same way that she did her castle, and that's why it has this very light, subdued coloration with the blues and the whites and this like powdery sort of look, almost as if Elsa had created it herself. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. You guys will get to see it a little bit better in the screenshots at the end. I know it was very quick in the footage, but I had thought about it for a really long time. Now back to the concept of these beams. You will see them here and there around the build, especially at the front side of the building and in the main four corners of the building, kind of breaking it up. And they just look like these really thick wooden beams with this white detailing layered around them. Now, I struggled so hard with coming up how I was actually going to create these, and I had to end stream because I was so frustrated. I knew I wanted them, and I couldn't find an item to do so, only to be pleasantly surprised once again by the Star Wars pack. And I know the Star Wars pack, I know. However, the Star Wars pack, if anything, is a builder's dream. It comes with so many things, little clutter items, and special debug rocks and trees and plants that are just really, really helpful. And the more I go throughout my building of the Disney Save, the more I realize that I basically use it in every single one of my builds in one way or another. And for this build, it's actually pretty critical if you want to have these beams. So I think I've done a good job hiding what it actually is, but the pack comes with this porg hand-carved, almost like mini tree trunk or log type of item. And if you size it up and put 4 of them facing one another in a big circle and have the porgs just face in on one another, it just looks like a big stump. And then to break up the part where the stumps meet one another so that I could layer them very high, I found a coffee table that had some pretty detailing on it and just put them over like the gaps in between. So it took me a really long time, but I think that it was worth it. It's really special to this lot, and it's one of those things where if you don't watch my speed build videos, I can just picture people downloading this lot and wondering where we got that item and then being totally surprised that it is in fact the porg statue from the Star Wars pack. It was really fun to figure that out. A bit of a challenge, but ultimately I do think that it came out really, really good. So I'm happy with it. Probably will use it again in the future, but I think that it really works for today's build. Now, another thing that I sort of struggled with in concept, or was trying to come up with a good solution to for today's build, was lighting. Frozen is supposed to take place in an older time period, and a lot of the times when you see the village or the buildings, you will notice that there are some types of lanterns. So I try not to do like overly modern looking lighting or really overly modern looking anything when it comes to doing some of these older movies. For this build, it was definitely a bit of a struggle not to use some of the modern stuff because the modern stuff weirdly fit with the vibe of this place. And I made exceptions here and there for that. For example, the eco lifestyle couches and some of the chairs are used in here, which are very modern, but the reason that I liked them so much was because they had a handmade look to them, and eco lifestyle in general I feel like really fits in with a lot of the Frozen vibes because of that. And I also used the somewhat more modern looking fireplace that comes with Snowy Escape, but I think it works perfectly. Again, it has sort of like that detailing that I wanted basically everything in this build to have. So I ended up making exceptions here and there, but one of the things I didn't want to make an exception on was lighting. I didn't want to have like mason jars hanging. I didn't really want to even do necessarily like ceiling lights. It had to be candles or fireplaces or something like that. And once again, one of the craftable items in Eco Lifestyle are these hexagonal looking wall lights that are really cool to create like faux rock walls and things like that. But they're so bright, they're so crisp white. And again, I was trying to think about like, how can I make this build feel like it has more snowflakes and more detailing, particularly like with the shape of snowflakes, but not have it be super tacky. Like I didn't really want to use the snowflake hanging wall lights that we have in the game. I tried using those. You might even see them here and there throughout the build, but they're not really the vibe I was going for. There's sort of like a classiness and a timelessness to Frozen that I didn't want to lose in this build by just hanging snowflakes all over the place. So how can I do it in a more interesting and still really representative style? And then I found those wall lights from Eco Lifestyle. And I realized they size up and down really well, and I can kind of make little patterns with them. So I've hung them in different places throughout the build. There's one kind of behind the cafe. There's one upstairs. There are some on the window in that little bump out area. And every single one of them is different. And it was done on purpose so that it felt like a snowflake. Every single one is different. There's also one, I think, located in the bathroom. And I thought that it was just perfect. I absolutely love how it came out. And it gives sort of this like crisp white glow to this build that I feel like is very unique. A lot of the times for these more old-timey builds where I'm trying to create like an aesthetic from an older movie, it feels like you get this like orangey, lanterny kind of glow. And you can always change lighting, by the way. If you go into live mode, you can literally change any light in the game to be any color, and that's how I will sometimes use that feature so that I can create like a glow at a specific location. But it's always nice to be able to fully visualize something when you are actually building it. And so I will often try to find lights that I feel like already naturally glow in appropriate colors so that you can really visualize it as you're going along and make sure that you're on the right track. And the fact that the lights come like that really worked out super well. So you'll see them here and there throughout the build. The other thing that I do want to preface is that I specifically have done the ice cream parlor upstairs because for some reason there are like a list of things in The Sims that if you have them on a lot, Sims tend to gravitate towards, almost to an annoying degree sometimes. And we had talked about this a lot in chat, and I had spoken about this with my patrons when the concept of an ice cream parlor at all sort of came up, because one of those items is in fact the ice cream machine. The popcorn machine also does this. Computers and TVs to a degree tend to do this. And it's one of those things where when Sims enter a lot, it's the first thing that they're infatuated with, and they just immediately go running to that item. And for some reason, ice cream machines cause that problem. So I wanted to have the ability to potentially have you make the ice cream machine inaccessible so that if it gets annoying for you in your gameplay, you don't have to worry about it anymore. So we have the downstairs that functions as the general cafe, and the ice cream machines are exclusive to the upstairs, with the thought that you could either block the stairs off, remove the stairs, or just throw the stairs away and completely block off the lofted area up top so that your Sims can't get up there anymore to use them if it became super annoying to you. I know that when I've played in the past for certain things, like using a popcorn machine was so annoying to the point where I would have to remove it or put it into somebody's inventory. And I just wanted to keep that in mind while doing this. So I deliberately did not put any ice cream machines downstairs. And maybe that's a bug that I'm not aware of, but if anybody else has experienced that and knows exactly what I'm talking about, definitely comment down below. But we had spoken about this quite a bit, and I think that people have noticed this other than myself, but when the topic came up, I immediately knew what everybody was talking about. So I just wanted to have a separation space so that you could still enjoy the cafe, and you have the downstairs portion that also includes like the fireplace where you can get a warm coffee or a latte and sit by the fire and enjoy the mountain. Maybe after the mountain excursion, if you start at Oakens for the excursion, you go all the way up and then you come back down and you have this beautiful cafe that you can stop at and sort of celebrate your mountain excursion. And I won't spoil what the next door lot is going to be, but that also sort of plays into that idea. It's going to be fun. I think you guys will like it quite a bit. We did already start it on stream, but I had to remove the video from my Twitch because I actually reacted live to the brand new Paranormal stuff pack, and there was some music in there that I just felt like I probably should remove just in case Twitch got a little bit mad about me using or having the music in my video. So I did remove that. So the beginning footage of the next speed build is gone. And if you're not a regular viewer for Twitch, you will have no idea. But I think you should come hang out for that very reason. Sometimes I might have to do stuff like that. So it's always good to just follow me over there so you can come hang out and see what we're working on way before it even gets posted on YouTube. And as far as the Paranormal stuff pack goes, I was actually, of course, I'm very apprehensive. Most of you know that I am a little outspoken when it comes to Sims packs, and I'm always just like pushing the Sims to do better. And I think a lot more people recently have gotten on the same bandwagon, and I can be like pretty grateful for that, because I think the more people are really pushing the game and the developers, and specifically EA, to really do better with the packs that they put out, the better our chances are that we're actually going to get good content. And with stuff packs specifically, they're very hit or miss. I usually like them in concept because they're cheap-ish and you just get some new items, and a lot of it is build and buy, and of course I will use it in most of my speed builds. So for builders, stuff packs are great. The cast is always nice. Specifically with me doing the Disney save, it's like now I'm more invested in what actually comes in the cast catalog for a new pack, but before it was usually only my build and buy. That's all I really cared about. But I think that stuff packs are the least harmless of all things, because they're sort of cheap and then you just get like a little collection of items and everybody sort of moves on. And we don't talk about stuff packs very often. So when they announced that they were going to be making some kind of a stuff pack that was based after the community vote that didn't win, which is essentially a paranormal type of idea, I was excited because I actually wanted Happy Haunts. That was the version of the pack that I was more leaning towards. I put my vote in first for Happy Haunts and then crafting second. So the concept of it was more up my alley, and it does suck that I just got done with like Haunted Mansion related stuff. And if you're interested in any of that, I did recently finish Forgotten Hollow, and we built both Haunted Mansions and made a lot of the characters from the Haunted Mansion rides from the various parks. So definitely check all of that stuff out. But to do a paranormal pack, as long as it wasn't like a Ghostbusters pack necessarily, in concept, a good one for me. But as per usual with The Sims, expectations are very low. I had my bar set on the ground, like just not too concerned either way. I wasn't going to get overly excited or overly critical of it because it's just a stuff pack. It's not like an expansion. There's really not a lot to say. But I am pleasantly surprised with the style of the furniture that's coming with the pack. It's going to work really well with Movie Hangout. It kind of has a Realm of Magic look there. Of course, the most exciting thing for me was the fortune teller crystal ball. And it's attached to a table, which I have expressed many times as like not ideal. I don't like that they do stuff like that. But it seems like it's going to come with some cute plants, some clutter items. Some of the cast that they have already shown is really fun. There's kind of like a mullet looking hair, which is very in right now, and I thought was an interesting choice. But other than that, like the cast clothes look pretty decent. And lots of candles, lots of almost somewhere in between Realm of Magic and Movie Hangout. So exciting. I thought it would be cute. I'll definitely go back and update my Haunted Mansion speed build so that it is actually a haunted house, which is a lot type that is going to be added with that pack. And I think it will cause chaos and weird little spiritual things to happen, including these like tiny spirit looking star things that kind of remind me of I don't know what it's called, but it's from like Mario Galaxy, if any of you know what I'm talking about. Reminds me very much of those creatures from Mario Galaxy. And I even saw in the trailer there was like hands coming up out of the ground. So it'll be fun to add it to things like that and be able to go back into Leota's little fortune telling room and actually update it so you can get your fortune told. And for Other Side Nightclub as well, I had a room in the very back where spellcasters could come and get their fortune told, but it was non-functional, and now hopefully we will be able to actually make it function in some way. So it'll be fun. We'll see. It'll probably be very useful in Glimmerbrook as well, whatever we end up putting there, and I'm sure I will use it. And I know everybody's going to comment this, so I will just say I did see Bonehilda. There was actually a funny moment that happened on stream where basically everybody in the Sims chat that we were viewing was really angry as soon as the trailer ended because Bonehilda was not like featured in the trailer. And when we were going back through and breaking it down after they had put out the live stream, we accidentally stumbled into her because I was trying to look at a shelf in the background and she happened to walk by, which chat was very, very excited about. So I wanted to acknowledge that because I know many of you were going to comment and ask me if I saw it, and I have. And that's actually going to round out today's speed build of Latte Go. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of it in the comment section down below and what you were excited to see next in the Disney save. Follow me over on Twitch so that you can come hang out and watch me live build and create Sims. If you would like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in my description box down below or the one at the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.